Welcome to the STLK in the UTA Jazz podcast or Hive podcast. You know, it's a little bit of both here, but you know, as everybody knows, I'm Conjo. Today we have a very, very special guest on, you know, someone that I looked up to growing up. I'm sure he doesn't want to hear that, you know, but you know, we have UVU Hall of Famer, 12-year NBA veteran, Utah Jazz legend, Ronnie Price.
What's going on?
Alley-oop it. Oh, yeah! Here's Price as an opening. Ronnie Price! Ronnie Price has got some hops.
You know, thanks for hopping on, Ronnie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is a full circle moment for me. Like I said, I'm sure you don't want to hear it, but you know, I was 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible.
10 years old watching you play, you know, your left hand dunks and doing your thing. And so like, it's crazy to, you know, think about that, you know, and my dad will testify this too. Like my favorite player was Ronnie Price, you know, coming off the bench, and everybody loved DWill, you know, they're great guys, but like, you know, nothing like a little spark off the bench. And then, you know, so that was always something that I, you know, loved growing up. And so it's crazy to be here, you know, and have you right across from me. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate the words, and I'm glad that you respected that, you know.
Of course. No, that's the thing is, you know, and it's crazy because, you know, I remember I was in elementary school, you know, same age as, you know, younger than your kids.
That's ridiculous.
And, you know, everyone had the same kind of thing. Like everyone loved the Jazz, but it was, you know, your spark off the bench and, you know, what you were able to do is that everyone loved you. So,
well, I appreciate it.
You know, because you've played 12 years in the league. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so 4 of them were in Utah.
Yeah. 4 years in Utah. 2 years in Sacramento before that.
Yep.
And then just kind of bounced around team to team.
So we'll get there, but like that's a third of your career in Utah. And it's crazy to think that like you only played a third of your career in one place, yet everyone still remembers you. Everyone idolizes you and, you know, looks up to what you were able to contribute. Like, what's that like? You know, like playing in different places and what, you know, how the fan base, you know, appreciates you and looks at you, you know, just being in Utah for 4 years.
You know what? The Utah fan base has always been amazing. Yeah. I mean, even though we didn't have sellout crowds in college when I was at Utah Valley, but the Jazz fans, the support has always been real. It's been amazing. So being able to play college here and then play 4 years for the Jazz, it was kind of like playing in front of family. Yeah. You know, so it was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's bring it to, you know, the very beginning here, right? So you're 5'7" as a senior.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was a small guy.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was a small guy.
Because, you know, growth spurts, you know, I hit mine, I was in the 8th grade. You know, I was short, I grew, you know, now I'm tall, but, you know, I was in 8th grade. You know, later, like you're 5'7" as a senior. What, you know, you have a great senior year. What are you looking at? You know, you walked on to Nicholls State, but what does that look like for you? 5'7" as a senior, you finish up your season. You know, what was the future looking like for you at that time?
Well, you know, senior year was rough. I mean, it was like the second, third game of my senior season, I broke my shooting wrist. So
doesn't help.
No. So being 5'7", you know, with these ambitions to play college basketball and then break your shooting wrist and not be able to play as many games as you would like, you know, kind of build that resume. Hopefully more colleges get a chance to see me play. It was rough. So I set out, I don't know the amount of weeks, but I came back pretty early and started playing some games with my left hand just to get on the floor because I didn't want to miss out on my senior year in high school, you know?
I was going to wait to ask this question till the end, but is that where the left-hand dunk came from?
You know, I'm kind of a weird, quirky guy. Like, I'm left-footed.
Yeah, okay.
My dad's left-handed, so watching my dad kind of naturally probably do things, I think I picked up on some of his habits, but I'm actually feel kind of stronger doing things with my left hand than I do with my right.
It's crazy.
So it's kind of where my power comes from.
Yeah.
The way I'm a 2-foot jumper and I generate more power planting my left than my right. So that naturally forces me to lean, which naturally puts the ball in what I would call my strong hand in those moments, which is my left hand. So that's kind of where that happened. Playing dunk ball when I was a little kid. You get a chance to experiment with things like that. So
because if you look at your dunk mix, you know, it's all over YouTube. Every single one-hand dunk is left-handed.
Oh yeah,
every single one.
I think I had one right-handed dunk in my career. Well, sorry, that's not true. I had one like big right-handed dunk in my career, and that was against the Rockets.
It was on Chase Budinger.
That's right. That's right. So that's all my other like tip dunks were with my right hand.
Yeah.
So anything that came off the rim was with my right hand. But if I had momentum with the basketball in my hand, it was either a 2-hand dunk or a left hand.
So when was the first time you dunked?
The last home game in high school, I dunked in warm-ups and turned around and flexed at the student section.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I was trying to do for a long time. So
Yeah.
to finally like throw the ball up in the air, catch it off the bounce and dunk it with my left hand, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of like took off from there. Then I just started like doing all types of dunks.
Yeah.
So
that's sweet. And so Nicholls State, did they come to you? Did you reach out? What did that process look like?
Crazy story. I went to a basketball camp when I was 12, 13 years old at LSU because I was a big Pistol Pete fan.
Yeah.
Even though I never got a chance to watch him play, I was infatuated with his story and his passion for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I saved up some money. Then my mom and dad surprised me, and they actually let me go to this LSU basketball camp, and it was an overnight camp. Anyway, played really well, got MVP of the camp, and there's a college coach there who kept in touch with me. Well, actually, he just said, give me your number. When you're 17 years old, you're going to get a call from me and you can come play for me wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
So this guy kind of like...
But when you hear that, you're not thinking...
That's right.
You're like, okay.
I was like, BS,
yeah,
right?
for
like,
sure.
I don't know if I can cuss on here.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to. But anyway, I was like, BS, right? That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not kidding you. Right after my senior year was over, I get this call, and his name was Coach Jones, Coach Smooth. And he calls me and he's like, hey, what's up, man? It's Coach Smooth. He's like this little guy, like 5'3", 5'4", a lot of personality, great guy, great energy. He was like, man, I know you're, tearing it up in high school. Send me a couple of your games. I'm at Western Nebraska right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. So I had a couple big shooting games, big scoring games to finish off my senior basketball career and sent him some film. And he's like, hey, you playing on any AAU teams out there? And I was like, actually, no. I haven't played AAU my whole high school career.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he was like, look, I got a guy in Dallas, right, which I'm from Houston area, kind of Friendswood area. He was like, because I graduated at 17. I know all these parents are holding their kids back right now, because they want them to have some type of, I don't know what they're
advantage. It's some fab now.
Yeah, don't get me going on. But anyway,
conversation for a different time.
Yeah, for sure. So he's like, look, he has this Adidas team out there. Because you're 17 years old, you still have eligibility. Go play in a couple tournaments, and I just want to see you play.
Yeah.
So I did. I would catch a Greyhound bus to Dallas and practice Friday, Saturday, practice early Sunday, then come home on a Greyhound bus. And sometimes if, mom and dad were doing okay, I would catch a Southwest flight out there. I played in 2 tournaments. I had Chris Bosh on that team.
Really?
Ike Diago, Daniel Horton. So it was 3-4 pros on this team.
That's crazy.
But these guys were a year younger than me. But they played on the main team.
Yeah.
I played on the second team so that I could showcase. Well, we ended up doing just as good as the main team and beating teams that they would lose to. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I played well.
Yeah.
Played against some of the top guys in the country, and kind of the momentum picked up. Well, anyways, fast forward. Coach Jones ended up getting an assistant head coaching job at Nicholls State. And by the time I was waiting on him all summer, I'm going wherever you're going because, this guy clearly, liked me.
Yeah, believes in you.
Which is a great thing for kids to know. You go where you're wanted for sure. And I signed too late. So Nicholls State used all their scholarships for that year. But because I had decent grades and, other things, I was able to get my out-of-state fees waived and, my housing waived and half of my tuition waived. So my scholarship didn't kick in at Nicholls State until the second semester.
But quick. I mean, second semester and you're on scholarship.
Well, that's when they got, the scholarships for that next year.
Cool.
So I was able to sign.
And then, you obviously, do your thing out there and then UVU, comes about.
Yeah. So same thing. Nicholls State was a D1 school. We played in the Southland Conference. We had 4 previous starters from the year before that were ineligible because of grades. So I was forced to play right away.
Yeah.
which was,
you're not mad about.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I don't know if I was ready.
Yeah.
Anyway, my head coach left at the end of the season. So a lot of guys, teammates, were trying to figure out where we were going to go transfer. And there was no such thing as the transfer portal. The way it is today.
You can just bounce around any day of the week that you want to.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Not a thing.
If you go D1 to D1 back then, you had to sit out a year. So Coach Jones ended up, getting the job at Utah Valley. And Utah Valley was a real unique situation because they were a JUCO, which means I could play right away.
Yeah.
But then they were also already in the works of transferring to becoming a university the next upcoming year. So I was like, all right, this is a win-win.
Yeah. I
can play right away. If I play well, I can go wherever I want to go.
Yep.
If I don't play well, there's still an opportunity for me to be a D1 athlete again by just staying at Utah Valley.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't think about it like that.
So that's why I chose Utah Valley.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, did you think, however many years later you'd be inducted into the UVU Hall of Fame at the time?
You know what? I would normally say no, but I would be lying to you if it wasn't something that me and my cousin Henry Joyner, who taught me how to play basketball, we talked about things like this.
Like it's on the board. It's on the dream board.
It was definitely something that I wrote about.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm a big believer in writing things down. So, and my wife has read some things that I've written. I talked about a lot of these things that I wanted out of my life and out of the game. And, Hall of Fame was definitely in the pages for sure. I didn't know where, but being a Hall of Famer was definitely something that I talked about for sure.
Because I mean, you're third in the country in scoring at UVU. It was like 24.5 points per game. Like that's kind of insane in college basketball. Like you don't see that level of scoring very much anymore. 24 and a half is nuclear. Yeah. So you go through your senior season, you're dominating, third in the country is that's crazy. Yeah. And then, your season wraps up and NBA, has to be on your mind.
Right.
And so walk us through that journey of, finishing your senior season third in the nation. And then what that looked like for you, exploring the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I know I gave Coach Jones a lot of credit, but the main reason why I went to Utah Valley was to play for Dick Hunsaker. I mean, hands down. Right? Like I met him and I was like, this is the guy. 100%. He prepped me to be a pro more than anyone else that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
But that process of like being a senior, having scouts look at me as a junior, and then, having kind of like this reality kind of thing hit me to where, man, I got NBA scouts coming to the game.
Yeah.
And now, at one point I was leading the country in scoring. I always like kind of me and this guy named Keedron Clark were kind of like
back and forth.
Yeah. And then
is that going through your head before games?
I actually didn't know about it until maybe halfway through the season. There was an article that came out, and we didn't have social media like that. So you couldn't go and look at your competition just by Googling. It wasn't as crazy as it is now.
Yeah.
But seeing, and my wife also worked, for Utah Valley and had access to know when scouts were there. I mean, we were girlfriend and boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
People would tell me, you had 6 scouts tonight at the game. And I'm like, really? Well, I'm glad I played well.
Yeah.
But that process was weird, man. It really was. And being kind of like noticed nationwide was weird. It was different for me.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting thrown out in conversations. I mean, you worked out with Pistons, Jazz, a few teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's got to be crazy, you know, like obviously it was in your head, but like it doesn't become real until you're putting on like a warm up and like trying out for an actual team.
Oh, it was wild. My first workout was with the Pistons with Larry Brown, and the Pistons were in the playoffs against the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah.
And that was when Pistons were like the Pistons, right? Like
the 2000
Billups, right?
Tayshaun Prince, both Wallaces.
That's right. So
Rip Hamilton.
I'm like, why am I working out for this team they're in the middle of the playoffs. Like, no one's even going to beat, no one cares about us in this workout. Larry Brown was there at 7 a.m. and worked us out for 2.5 hours and was detailed in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
That's crazy.
This is different.
Yeah.
But the attention to detail that I learned from Coach Hunsaker transferred over because in that workout, Larry Brown was super particular about everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I already had a coach like this.
And I feel like it's where a lot of people get a shorthand is they're not prepped like that.
That's right.
You know, they go into some kind of combine, right? And it's like they're basing their performance just off of how they play.
Right.
And there's from what I've heard, it's super extensive on even, what you're doing in the locker room, what you're doing in the halls, like is more than just the way you play on that court.
Oh yeah. I mean, 100%. The NBA is a big business.
Yeah.
So before an organization invests into a person, they need to know that person.
Yeah.
Right. So the interview process was crazy. I even took some type of personality test. The Atlanta Hawks made me take like this 2-hour test. And that was a crazy experience because it was me taking this test. And then Andrew Bogut, another Utah guy, was there. So I worked out against like just crazy athletes.
Yeah.
But then Bogut did a workout by himself because, he was projected to be number one. And we had to take these personality tests afterwards. So they dive into you. I mean, like it's a real job
crazy
interview. But the greatest thing about those workouts was the fact that I got a chance to play against all these SEC, ACC, big, all these big time
that you
guards,
didn't get to play against.
But it's 2-on-2, 1-on-1, right? Like it's conditioning to see who can outlast one another. Well, that works more in my favor than in their favor.
Yeah.
The tricky part is if I'm going against a guy that's at North Carolina and say I kick his butt in that workout, that puts a lot of pressure on that general manager.
Yeah.
When they're looking at this guy from Duke or North Carolina as their guy that they're going to draft in that spot, and then I come in from Utah Valley and embarrass this guy.
Yeah.
Well, then the general manager and that team has to make a decision on draft day. Well, if they draft a guy from Duke or North Carolina, which this happens, and that guy turns out not to be a player, it's on that guy.
Yeah.
But if they draft me from Utah Valley over that guy from Duke and I turn out to not be a player, that's on the organization.
Yep.
Like you took a risk where on someone that no one knows about and he's no good, right? That's on the player.
Yeah.
But if you take a risk, right? If you don't take that risk and you go draft the guy that everyone expects you to draft and they're no good, well, that's on that player, right? So I didn't realize that dynamic until I became a scout. So I get it now.
It's crazy. I mean, there's just so much more that goes into it. I can't imagine the pressure of having to do that.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I loved it. I loved the competitive aspect of going against these guys because that allowed me to see exactly where I was at as a player and what I needed to work on. But it also gave me a lot of confidence. Like, I belong.
Yeah, like this is like I can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get into the league and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I belong.
No, yeah. I had a discussion about this the other day. Like I think it was like 2 days ago. We were talking about how like an NBA starter, not an all-star, how many points would they average in a college game?
Oh yeah.
And I was just saying like the difference is crazy. Like it is not even comparable.
It is unreal. And I tell people this all the time. If you take the mega stars, and I say mega, I'm talking LeBron, I'm talking Giannis. I mean, if you see Wemby in the gym, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you see Ja Morant, he's different. Like there's guys that are just Tatum, they're just different. Those are your mega stars. But if you take the rest of the all-stars, and I just picked 5 all-stars, and then I took 5 guys that were the 15th guy on the bench and put them in a pickup game, and said, you tell me who the 5 all-stars are and who the 5 guys that don't play any minutes, you wouldn't be able to do it.
This is exactly my point. You're validating every argument that I had the other day.
You wouldn't be able to do it.
Because I did a poll on my Instagram story, and 35% of people said that they would average around like 20 points a game in a college game. NBA starters.
Oh my gosh.
I did 40 to 50.
It would be embarrassing.
And that was only about 15%. And then about 50% had 30 to 40.
Well, it depends on who you're getting. Like if you go and get some guy that's a specialty guy, because the NBA is also filled with a lot of specialty players.
Yeah.
You got your shooters, you have your defenders, you have your shot blockers / rebounders, right?
Yeah.
Those guys, all right, I can see that argument.
Yeah.
Because, right, they're specialty guys. They do one thing better than the rest of the world, right?
That's why they have that job.
But then you have the basketball skilled guys that fill the rest of the team. Listen, there's some guys that the world just hasn't had an opportunity to see play on a high level. Yeah. Because they either can't remember a play, they're knuckleheads, or they don't want to defend.
Yeah.
But if we're just talking straight basketball, hey, I don't need you to worry about winning or losing. Just go get me a bucket. Hey, it's a different level.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a different level. High school to college, it was like, okay, this is physical. Everyone plays hard, right? Everyone plays hard in college.
Yeah.
That was an adjustment, like the strength, right? The physicality, and then like the detail of prepping for a game was new.
Yeah.
When I got to the league, it was like, oh man, I'm like 2 seconds behind everyone.
Yeah.
Like the actions come at you so quick, and before you know it, you've been in a pick and roll and out, and then your guy just bounced out to the corner. Now you're in a closeout. Now you're getting beat to the basket. Now there's a oop at the rim and it's a dunk. And it's like, what just happened? That happened in like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, because as soon as I get a ball across the half court, it's 17 seconds on the shot clock. By the time I call a play, it's 10 seconds on the shot clock.
And you got to move quick.
Or 16 or 15 or whatever. Like when you're coming across, the NBA is all reads. So you have quick hitters and then it's basketball.
Yeah.
Once that first action is done, it's just strictly basketball after that. So you got to react. And I think that's where a lot of college guys, and then being a guy that had a decent time in the league, you see these young guys come into a pickup game.
Yeah.
And then they have to adjust. And that adjustment, you can see the young guys, they're just a half second behind. And then like in Phoenix, we played pickup games with a 12-second shot clock. So you're up and down, and it's 12 seconds on the shot clock. And people wonder why Phoenix Suns with Steve Nash, why they played like that.
Yeah.
Well, every practice was a 12-second shot clock.
That's the coolest thing ever.
So it's like
you
don't have time to think. You have to react and just hoop. So guys like, that's why Steve was amazing. I mean, he pushed the ball up the floor, and before you know it, you're in action in 6 seconds.
Yeah.
There's a bucket.
See, that's why my favorite player in the league right now is Tyrese Halliburton.
Oh, he can play.
He's by far my favorite player in the league right now.
So what's the difference between him and LaMelo Ball?
I love LaMelo too.
Yeah, but what's the difference?
You tell me.
I think one is more like detailed oriented and actually,
one's kind of flashy, or
one's a little, kind of casual.
Yeah.
But game wise, they got the same quirky, like crafty game.
Yep. Crazy little shot, but can pull up, can shoot from anywhere, can get the ball. Because Halliburton I praise him.
He can play.
He is amazing.
He can play. And I was late on him. I was late on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was.
I mean, I was super late.
Like, as in, like, recently.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would just say that I don't watch the Pacers play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, unless they're playing someone that I want to watch.
Yeah.
So I was late. Like, I saw the highlights. I get the accolades, All-Star.
Because highlights are highlights, though.
Yeah, but like, I'd never watched him control a game.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't watch him.
He controls the game.
That's right.
And he has the perfect assets for it. I mean, Buddy Hield's gone now, but hit Buddy at any time. Miles Turner's perfect for a pick and roll. Yeah. Now they have Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
Like,
they got a team.
It's a good team. So you go undrafted. And did you immediately have like scouts calling you? Like, did you know, like, what's the gap between not hearing your name called to, am I going to be playing in the NBA?
That was a wild experience. So, we have a draft party at my house.
Yeah.
family, everyone's there. And I had 5 teams pretty much tell me, hey, you're our guy. Maybe not first pick, second pick, but late first round, second round, we have some options. We're coming after you.
Yeah.
And so I'm confident. Look, I had great workouts. I really did.
Yeah.
I think the only workout that I didn't do well, and the Clippers still were one of the teams that were going to potentially draft me, was the Clippers workout. And that's because I broke my nose like the 5th possession of the workout, you know? But watching those teams and watching the potential picks that could be me come and go, that was rough.
Yeah.
But in that process, I'm talking to my agent. My agent's like, all right, look, hey, Jazz have 5 picks this year. Then all of a sudden, Jazz trade 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, they had the 51st pick too.
Yeah.
I guarantee no one listening knows who it is. It's a random. It's just
Robert Whaley.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
You know why I know? Because that's when I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
You know, so like the Jazz had 5, traded 2 to move up to get Darren. So they drafted Darren Williams, CJ Miles, Robert Whaley.
Yeah.
So when that pick came around, my agent and I were like, all right, here it is. Jazz have an opportunity. Robert Whaley. So
did he even play?
I don't know.
I don't think he ever even made it on a court.
I know Rob, but you know, I don't know his. I was so focused on me, I didn't really.
Yeah.
You know. But Sacramento Kings only had 1 pick that year. Late first round, they drafted Francisco Garcia.
Yeah.
I had an amazing workout in Sacramento, like to the point to where they asked me to stay when I had the Clippers next.
Yeah.
And they were like, we got Nate Robinson coming in. Can you just stay and work out against him? And I called my agent. My agent was like, hey, they like you. But they also like Nate. You want to stay and work out against Nate? And I was like, man, I would love to work out against Nate.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could have a better workout than what I just did. I didn't miss a shot. I won every one-on-one drill. Like, it was one of those.
Like, what more do I need to do?
I was in the zone.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, they were like, look, we only have 1 pick. We're trying to trade to get a second pick so we can draft you.
Yeah.
This conversation is happening during the draft. Jazz are like, hey, we're still, thinking about you. Clippers, they drafted Daniel Ewing, right? Like, all these guys started just going and coming and going. I'm just sitting there like, man. I had a good workout with the Pistons, my first workout. Joe Dumars calls me. The Pistons had the last pick in the draft, which was 60.
Yep.
Joe calls me. He was like, Ronnie, what's up? It's Joe Dumars. We're getting ready to draft you right now. And I'm like, cool. He was like, but you know our situation. We got a veteran team. We're probably going to send you to Italy. And I'm like,
really?
Don't draft me, Joe.
And that's got to be tough. Like, don't draft me?
Joe Dumars is like one of my favorite guys. Him and Isaiah Thomas, like that was like.
That's the bad boys right there.
And I love Joe. And Joe, I probably had some things in me that Joe saw in himself.
Yeah.
He loved Lindsey Hunter. Me and Lindsey had some similarities, right? So it was tough telling Joe, hey, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Mr. Dumars.
But
don't draft me.
That's crazy.
They drafted Alex Acker, who was a combo guard. I think he is still in Italy today.
Wow.
Like, he lives there. You know what I mean?
Like that could have been.
That's right.
What happened?
That's right. So my phone's blown. I didn't get drafted. There's a lot of stuff that emotionally I'm going through.
Yeah.
My agent's like, hey, look, the Jazz just called. They want you to come be on their summer league team. And I was pissed off at the Jazz.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm going to the Jazz.
Yeah.
Like, I was so angry at them because, I'm right in their backyard. They promised me this stuff. So I'm like, all right. He goes, but Sacramento.
They're still, yeah.
Sacramento said they'll shape the summer league team around you. It's like your spot, your team. And then my grandmother comes in through the door. She was there. My wife was there. She knows nothing about basketball. Spiritual lady, though.
Yeah.
Knows nothing about basketball. And I'm down. And she was like, what are you in your sad for? She was like, it just came to me. You're going to play for a team that starts with an S. I kid you not. Like, I got chills right now. And I'm looking at her and, like, you know, my cousin's like, Seattle? She's like, no, that's not it. And I already knew who she was talking
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy.
And I didn't have any, these are like private conversations, right? In my childhood room with my agent. No one knows what I'm doing or talking to or what. And, you know, I said to Sacramento. She goes, that's it. She was like, lift your head up. You're going to play for Sacramento next year. I called my agent right there. I said, tell Sacramento I'm coming to Summer League.
Oh.
Like, crazy.
Wow.
Like, super spiritual lady. Always been kind of the spiritual backbone in our family. So that was like all the confirmation I needed right there.
Wow. So they end up giving you a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Which is not common.
No.
Not common.
At all. As an undrafted rookie, not heard of.
For anyone listening, that is not common. Not happening hardly ever.
Right.
So you go there and immediately, you know, you make an impact. It wasn't like you were like working in, like you made an impact pretty quickly. Yeah. You have the most memorable dunk in 2006 season on future teammate, you know, Carlos Boozer.
Yeah.
Here's Price as an opening. Ronnie Price! Oh! Weak Mr. Ronnie Price. Ronnie Price, Carlos Boozer.
But like, what was that like? You know, you go your 2 seasons and then, you know, free agency comes.
Yep.
And are you like what does that free agency process look like? Are you confident that like you're going to be signed? Like,
yeah. So the Kings offered me a qualifying offer to stay. I have 2 things in my career that I probably would have done differently. This is one of them. And I don't think the Jazz fans are going to like this, but
hey, it's a business.
The Kings had a qualifying offer on the table because they didn't have money. If I take it, so someone would have to come in, as you know, someone would have to come in and offer me more than a qualifying offer, right? And then if I took that more than the qualifying offer from another team, then the Sacramento Kings had a chance to match that.
It. Yep.
So all the teams were just waiting. Like, hey, we know you got a qualifying offer from the Kings. We're just going to wait. You know, like they didn't want to just throw anything out there. They just wanted to see. Yeah. Well, it was like, 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something before the deadline that I had to sign the qualifying offer. The Jazz come in with a 2-year deal, more than a qualifying offer.
Yeah.
I called Sacramento. They couldn't match it because it would have messed up their cap. And I'm at Utah Valley. And we go and had to like print the contract, hurry up and sign it, and fax it over at 12:01 the next day, right? Because Kings had to drop. Yep. And then I signed with the Jazz, but I did it all at Utah Valley. Like,
that's crazy.
You know, right after the qualifying offer deadline was over. And that's how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny, you're probably happy. You got to stick around. But, you know, so you get a 2-year deal with the Jazz. At the time, you know, Darren Williams, starting point guard, obviously was basically at Stardom at that point.
Right.
And then Jason Hart also signed with the Jazz. So at the time you signed, you were technically 3rd string for like, technically, right? Because Jason Hart got moved out.
Right. Which is interesting because Jason Hart was with me in Sacramento. So I had beat Jason Hart out my second year in Sacramento. He actually ended up getting waived, and then he went and signed with the Clippers immediately, right? Like after he got waived. But then the Jazz gave him $5 million. So I'm like, man, you just gave a guy that I beat out
$5 million?
You know, 2 years, $5 million.
Yeah.
And you never count another person's money, right? Like in the league, it's just a rule. Like you don't care. Like you just, which I was super. Jason Hart's my brother, by the way. He helped me like big time. He taught me a lot about the game. So shout out to Jason Hart because I love that man dearly, right? But he's also my position, and here I am, like once again, got to battle this guy who's tough, right? He's a defender. He's smart. He's a good point guard. And I'm like, man, like I got to go through Jason again. You know what I mean? Like this is, and he's my friend, right? And even though it's a competition, it's still a brotherhood, right? And you don't want to like have to always compete against your friends for certain spots. But that was different for me. You know, and having Jason there was a blessing, but also at the same time, you know, I'm a competitor, right? I wanted to earn the minutes.
Yeah. I mean, and then you basically solidify yourself as backup right there but with great rotational minutes. That was a great team. I mean, you go to the playoffs instantly.
Right.
They just the year before you get there were in the Western Conference Finals.
Right.
But your first season or your first playoff with the Jazz, I mean, you're playing against Yao Ming and Tracy McGrady,
right.
like some good ass guys, right? And then literally you guys win, and then you play against Kobe, Powell, and that team that ends up going to the finals.
That's right.
Like what's that like?
It was amazing. It was amazing because the playoffs are different, and the fact that I'm from Houston area and we play the Rockets, and grew up a Rockets fan.
Yeah.
And I'm playing, here it is, my third year in the NBA, and I'm playing in front of my family in the playoffs, like NBA playoffs. Like, for me, I get chills thinking about that feeling, seeing my cousins in the crowd with Price jerseys on, and seeing my mom and dad, and we're all big Rockets fans, but then seeing them cheer me on, and seeing my cousin, rest in peace, he's got the Price jersey on, he's talking to Rockets fans with a Price jersey on when we're winning the games, and they're throwing popcorn at him and throwing drinks at him because
he's just embracing it.
He's representing me, and I'll never forget those moments. I
mean, I get chills thinking about just watching those games. I can't imagine how it feels for you. That's got to be the coolest, just full, when you're in that moment, you're on the court, you look out, you see your family repping your jerseys in your home city. That, is that you're an I made it moment? Is that
for sure?
And that is that's awesome. What was your welcome to the NBA moment?
Practice.
Just running into practice.
Playing against Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, Ron Artest, Bonzi Wells, Brad Miller, Sharif Abdul-Rahim.
Because people sleep on that Kings team.
Oh my gosh.
They were nasty.
Listen.
They were
That's
nasty.
when I realized, first off, I'm not good enough. Because these guys, that corner offense that we ran in Sacramento under Rick Adelman, it was bulletproof.
Yeah.
And with those type of personalities and type of skill sets in those positions, the Brad Miller was the Chris Webber, right? Was the Vlade Divac. It's the same system, the 4-man that could shoot but also break you with the pass, right? Jason Williams, Bibby, those kind of scoring. Anyway, I got my butt kicked every day in practice trying to guard Mike Bibby.
Which is crazy because it's just the generational talent. Now, people look back at Mike Bibby and they don't really understand how good.
And he never
Mike
made
Bibby
an All-Star game.
It's crazy.
He might be the most underrated. I love you, Bib. He might be the most underrated guard in NBA history. Point guard. He is. No one Bib doesn't get his props. He was good, man. Really good.
There's a lot of guys like that.
Yeah.
That just were amazing, but never got the accolade to prove it really. Because nowadays that's what everyone looks at.
That's right.
And so back then it's just not. Then again, the league's just different now.
It is.
A guy like Mike Bibby in the league now, it'd be just so different.
Yeah.
This talent's just different now.
It is.
So, fast forward back to Utah, we're in Utah. This is probably the most memorable Utah Jazz team to date, I think, in my opinion. Obviously, I was young, so I'm biased. But you, DWill, Booze, Millsap, CJ Miles, Ronnie Brewer, that's a team.
That's right.
That's a team.
And back to what I was saying earlier, I should have stayed my ass in Sacramento. That's the whole point that I was saying. That was because Bib was older. Bib was kind of on his way out. I think I was the next guy in line.
And DWill is just on his way up.
And DWill's younger than me. And I chose to come over here, which, Jazz fans, I love you. I really do. I'm grateful for my 4 years here. But from a career standpoint, I don't know if that was a good move coming here behind Darren, who was a monster.
Yeah. Monster.
An absolute beast.
I mean, there's two plays I think of when I think of that team, right? the best one still to date is you steal at the top of the key, and then the behind the back AK behind the back. You know, what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That plays I remember being there, and I still carry that to this day.
Oh yeah.
And then passing it to Sundiata Gaines.
Oh yeah.
Now that's a play too. Like these are just core memories for me that I just I'm sure Jazz fans don't forget. But that's crazy because then we fast forward to end of the 2010-2011 season. Mm-hmm. DWill and Jerry Sloan have their fallout, right? What was that like for you?
It was really interesting because I know the real story.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I get fans ask me all the time, like, I got chills right now.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? And the truth is, you had two competitive humans wanting to win, right? And butt heads in competitive ways.
Yeah.
We had a stretch. It was like Derrick Rose, Steve Nash, John Wall. I don't remember the players, but they were all great pick and roll players. We were getting our butts whooped in the pick and roll, right? And there was a conversation that kind of happened earlier to where, Sloan and the organization kind of wanted Darren to be more of a leader. And we were like, hey, we think he leads great.
Yeah.
We didn't have a problem with Darren. Problem here. You know what I mean? We had a close team. That was the most, and that's why I say I don't really regret the Utah experience because the brotherhood that we had here was amazing. Like, those are great friends of mine. But, Darren also is, in my opinion, was the best point guard in the league.
100%.
Like,
everyone said it was Chris Paul.
No.
That was,
oh my gosh.
But that was a discussion for years.
No.
It was always DWill, Chris Paul.
Discussion. Like, I know people think that.
No, that's what I'm saying. On paper, that was the discussion.
Oh man, Darren was miles ahead of Chris Paul. I'll take D on my team all day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is what it is. But back to that pick and roll situation. Well, here we are in practice. And Darren's been asking, like, hey, we need to go over some pick and roll stuff. We need to go over some pick and roll stuff. And, get our calls right. Get our coverages right. Well, we go through practice and we kind of really didn't discuss it. And rest in peace to Jerry Sloan. I love him, respect him. Great mentor, great coach. Changed my life, right? Like, Sloan is just one of those other guys in my life. I call them guardian angels, right? I had a handful of them. Sloan's one of them, right? Huntsaker's one of them.
Yeah.
Sheldon Jones is one of them. My cousin's one of them, right? I got a handful of guys like that. But Darren's our point guard. He's our all-star. He's our guy. Darren says, hey, look, practice is over. He grabs his team together like a point guard should, and started discussing pick and roll strategies. Sloan didn't like that.
Hated it.
He didn't like that at all. So he walked out, said some words. There were some words that were exchanged.
Yeah.
And that kind of led to the next game.
Well, and especially because your contract's ending, right?
Yeah.
This is your chance to, succumb to that role.
Right.
Then they get Devin Harris.
Yeah. Darren got traded in Dallas. We're sitting on the training table, and it just scrolled across the bottom of ESPN, and I'm tapping Darren like, hey, I think you just got traded. And he's like, what? I was like, I'm pretty sure. He calls his agent. His agent doesn't even know, right? And then, I love the Jazz organization. This is not a knock on the Jazz organization. This is not a knock on Darren. This is just a miscommunication that got blown out of proportion. Mm-hmm. But what I was telling you is that before the Darren trade, the Ronnie Brewer trade killed us.
Yeah.
Ronnie Brewer was the energy. He was like everyone's favorite. We laughed, right? Brew is a comedian. He's like this energetic dude that has kind of like this, he has this gravity about him where guys just gravitate to him. He was the glue of our locker room.
Yeah. No one knows that. No one would ever expect that.
I'm not saying like Draymond Green glue to where he was the voice like that, but it was like Ronnie made you smile.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when he got traded, literally 5 minutes before or after the trade deadline on that plane, And we had to watch Brew grab his bags, say goodbye to everyone on the plane. We're getting ready to take off. And to see Coach Sloan's face, I don't think he knew that Brewer was getting traded. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a shock to everyone. Brew walks off that plane. That was the end of the Jazz era right there for our team.
Done.
We didn't stand a chance. And I mean it. And
Wow.
I say that loud and proud. We did not stand a chance when Ronnie Brewer walked off that plane. That was it.
Wow. That's amazing. That's crazy. Because legit from that, and it's not even just like you're saying that, like literally from that moment, the Jazz went into 4 years of nothing. Literally nothing.
Brew.
Wow. Because then you leave, right? Your contract ends.
Darren gets traded. Devin Harris and D. Favors come over to the team. My contract ends, and then the lockout happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about the lockout.
Yeah. Lockout was crazy. You know, we even had guys, Steph Curry came here, played in the game. We had a lockout game at Slick. I don't know if you knew about that.
No, I didn't know about that.
Up. Yeah, we had a lockout game at Slick. And it was like me, Paul, all the Jazz guys. Steph came in. Chauncey Billups came in. It was a big game.
Yeah.
It was fun. But during the lockout, you can't really talk to teams like that.
Yeah.
The NBA shut down. I had a deal in China. Literally, I had a deal in China. I was literally thinking about going to China. Then Aaron Brooks, remember Aaron Brooks?
Of course.
He takes the deal in China before I did.
Because he was with the Rockets.
He was with the Rock. No, he was with the Suns, I think.
Suns at the time?
Yeah. Actually, he was with the Suns.
Yeah. Because then
he takes the deal. Then the lockout ends, but he didn't have an NBA out. If I remember correctly, he didn't have a clause to get out of his contract with the Chinese team. Phoenix calls me and was like, "Can you be here tonight?" I'm like, "Huh?" You know, what about tomorrow morning?
Like tonight?
Not tonight, no. I had a few glasses of wine, that night, so I wasn't
super aching to head down there.
Right, anyway. So, yeah, leave that next morning, first flight out, and I'm in Phoenix's training camp. Lockout was over.
And then you're a Phoenix Sun.
A non-guaranteed deal. Had to make a team. But we had a crazy year. That was the year where the NBA was we had back-to-back-to-back games. You had 3 games in 3 nights that year. They were slamming games in. So Steve Nash couldn't hold up.
Yeah. I mean, he was at the end of his career anyways.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Sebastian Telfair had to carry the load when Steve couldn't play in back-to-backs.
That's wild. I mean, now it's just normal to not do back-to-backs and sit out, but back then it was frowned upon.
That's right.
Steve Nash didn't want to sit out.
Popovich was the first guy to rest guys.
Yeah. Which is crazy because no one thinks that Popovich would.
No, he was the first guy. Oh, no, stay home. Don't worry about this game.
That's crazy.
Tim, Manu, Tony.
Yep.
Just chill. He was the first guy to do that.
Wow.
Then the league is, full of copycats.
Yeah.
It's a copycat league.
Yeah.
And that's when
he set the tone. Huh?
He did.
So then, I can't not talk about this as we already discussed off camera, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, man.
I love Kobe.
Yeah. Man.
He was Kobe was, some Jazz fans are, up and in the air about him just because he killed the Jazz for so many years.
Right.
But he was what got me into basketball. LeBron was, emerging. I love Bron too.
Right.
Bron and Kobe are my go-tos.
Right.
But Kobe made me love the game.
Right.
LeBron made me love watching the game.
Right.
But Kobe made me love the game.
Right.
So what was that like, as a competitor against him, playoffs, you played against him for years.
Yeah, man.
To then becoming his teammate.
It was wild. I wore 24 in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I watched, being a scorer in college, I started watching where Kobe got his shots. So Kobe, listen.
Yeah.
He is Kobe, right? But competing against him, I had segments to where I had to guard him. And, That was fun.
Yeah.
You know, Ronnie Brewer and Karolinko were like the main guys that would guard him. CJ a little bit, right? But I had segments to where I would have to guard him.
Yeah.
It's just the way game flows, right? But being a Laker was strange. And I think I even went on record saying I hated the Lakers.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers knocked me out of the playoffs 3 times, right? So like
literally 3 times.
Yeah. So like I had pure hatred for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And my first day there, media day, these reporters bring up that quote. Like, you're on record saying you hate the Lakers. Now you're here. I was like, well, listen. And I kind of made up some crap like, well, I hate every team I play against.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, just the easiest way out ever.
Right.
Like, literally just.
And they're like, oh, that's fair. But I had this, genuine hate.
Yeah.
But being there and watching Kobe, his presence, his knowledge, his approach, it was unreal.
Yeah.
And I tell people this one story. We had a 3-on-3 kind of like tournament, I guess you would call it, where Byron Scott just had teams of 3. We played 3-on-3, and, whoever wins, right?
Yeah.
We lost, and I was on Kobe's team. We lost.
It was you, Kobe, and who?
I can't remember. Maybe, I don't know who the third guy was. I bet Kobe would remember. And I would always be kind of one of the first guys in the gym every day, my whole career. But this next morning, Kobe's in there, and he's sitting on the training table kind of in the corner. And Gary Vitti, the head trainer, there, who's like the legend, right? We're sitting in there, and I had a couple knickknacks that I tried to keep quiet, but Gary knew, and Kobe knew. No one else knew. Well, that's another story later, but sitting there, and then he goes, and he's like looking down. He always had like things, Kobe did. He had this iPad, and he's looking down at, and he had this whiteboard, like this clipboard next to him. And with his head down, he goes, next time we're in this situation, we got to do this. And I look at Gary Vitti, I'm like, who the hell is he talking to? And he called me kid. He was like, kid, I think he's talking to you. I said, you talking to me? He goes, yeah.
Because he's not looking at you.
No.
He's just.
Then he looks up and he was like, come look at this. So I get off the training table. He's watching
the 3-on-3.
The 3-on-3 he was that pissed off and was so upset. Like, he's looking at 3-on-3 spacing and like ways to pick 3-on-3 like situations apart. I was like, oh man, this dude, he lost sleep
over
that 3-on-3 game that we played the day before. And he's 7 a.m. in practice. I mean, on the training table looking at film.
At a 3-on-3.
He's like, yeah, they won't be able to guard this. We'd be here, we do this. I'm like, hey, man. Like, I thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Which I am a little cuckoo. I'm a pure Gemini.
Yeah.
I'm me that you know.
Yeah.
And then there's basketball me, which hopefully those stories don't come out as much. But I knew I was crazy competitive. He made me feel better about my issues.
Because he was
It's
a different breed.
He was different.
Oh man. Like that's the stuff you just love. Like, and I feel like I say this all the time. Like it would be insane, the NBA, if more guys nowadays had that kind of mindset.
Yeah. Because
the skill is just getting better and better, right? But I feel like the mentality is getting worse and worse and worse.
It's rare. I mean, I don't know if the mentality is getting worse. I think individuals are just different. The difference is guys in the league now have played so much basketball.
Yeah.
And they've played against each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Kobe didn't have a chance to play. Like, Jordan wasn't playing against Isaiah Thomas in junior high.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how it is now.
He wasn't playing against Drexler in junior high.
Yeah.
Right? Like, his first opportunity, if they didn't see each other in college, was in the NBA.
Yeah.
Or kids these days, on these circuits, they get to see, for the most part, the best talent in the country.
Well, they're purposely getting matched up against the best talent on, like, for views, right? Like,
Pretty much.
Carmelo's kid and LeBron, like Bronny, like they were always playing against top-notch guys because that's how it's designed now. Well, and that makes sense. At the time, it wasn't like that.
So you like that. So I think what kind of like can throw the basketball fan off is the mentality of that, what I just explained, versus the old mentality. Like if Jason Tatum, comes across, I don't know, give me somebody, Paul George, I don't know. That's not a good example. But if Ja Morant comes across Darius Garland, there you go.
Yeah, that's I actually like.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'll know if they have history or not.
Yeah.
But if I never got a chance, I never got a chance to play against any of these guys, really. So when I saw those guys, I was out for blood. This is my first chance getting to play against a Duke guard or a Louisville guard or a Kentucky guard, right? Like I'm going for blood because I'm from Utah Valley.
Yeah.
I didn't play in the AAU circuit like that. Where these guys have already like went for blood in their early life. Mm-hmm. And now it's, it's like there's kind of a different mentality that way, right? Yeah. Like a lot of these guys work out together in the summer. They're under the same agencies. They train together. They have real friendships, which there's a fraternity there.
Yeah.
And the fraternity just looks different than it did back then.
See, this is just like such different perspectives I would have never thought about.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. And so, you finish up with the Lakers, then you kind of, we're doing 1-year deals, there, just finding jobs and stuff. What was that like? I'm sure it was worse on your wife, but
for sure.
But like
she's a trooper.
Like jumping around. How many plate times did you move again? Was it 21? Yeah, it's no small number.
No, it's not. My wife, I probably would have lasted 3 years if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
Being real. But it's an adjustment. But once again, like I don't do social media anymore. But back when I had my little private Instagram page, I guess, I still have a login. I log in every blue moon to look at some funny videos.
Yeah.
But, I did one time say it, and it was like, I'm in the middle of a dream and I don't want to wake up. Mm-hmm. That's what my basketball experience felt like, right? Like I was a kid in a dream and I was not ready to wake up.
Yeah.
So for me, it didn't matter where I was at. It didn't matter who I was playing for. I was in the freaking NBA.
Yeah.
And my background and my childhood and my upbringing, right? Like where I'm from is...
Just defied it.
Like what? I don't have anything to complain about.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally in the middle of my dream right now.
Why not keep it going?
And that's right.
Because you played your most games in your second to last season in Phoenix.
That's right.
This is like 2015, 2016.
Yep.
Like later, I mean, you're in your early 30s and that's when you're playing like your most
consistent basketball.
Yeah. Like,
and I was in my prime.
Yeah. Like that's crazy.
I actually retired a better basketball, like probably 2 times the player that I was ever in my career. Like my Lakers, and I played with a freaking fractured elbow, in LA. So like the ball and Kobe, like I said, Kobe and Byron Scott and Gary Vitti were the only ones that knew about my elbow.
Yeah.
So the reason why I ended my season, Jordan Clarkson was a rookie. Byron Scott came up to me and was like, go get your surgery. I know what's going on. And Kobe's like, yeah, go get your surgery.
Yeah. I mean, if Kobe's telling you to get your surgery.
And the Lakers, they tried to re-sign me. Like, I had I became a starter.
Yeah.
I beat Jeremy Lin out and earned starting minutes. So I could have started and played the rest of my season with this fractured elbow.
Brought Linsanity to an end.
But I decided to do what was best for my career, knowing that we weren't playing for the playoffs.
Well, and your 3-point percentage went from that season 24 to I think it was like 38 from 3.
Yeah.
From just fixing the elbow.
Fixing my elbow. Well, the ulnar nerve would pop out. So when it would pop out, I had games to where I couldn't feel my ring finger and my pinky finger and my palm.
Jeez.
So I could only feel, my pointer, middle finger, and my thumb in the middle of my palm. So no one knew that.
Yeah.
So I had games to where the basketball actually felt flat in my hand because it was numb. I couldn't feel it. So Kobe would come up to me and was like, how's your elbow feeling? And I'm like, it's feeling good. He was like, well, we got OKC tonight. Russ isn't going to respect you. Shoot it every time. Well, I had 14 points in the first quarter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I felt good. How's your elbow feeling tonight? Hey, it's not good, man. The nerve is out. All right, look, we're going to run the plays over here. I'll always be on this block. You know what I mean?
What kind of confidence does that give you?
I mean, it's Kobe.
Like, Kobe is like...
But Kobe is a dog. He knew I was a dog too.
Like did he know those kind of things for everybody? Like just what was going to get him the competitive advantage against the other team by knowing his teammates?
He's just smart. I had to hide my plays from 5 guys. Draymond Green, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, and Rajon Rondo. If I called a play, no matter what team I was on, those guys would literally turn around and tell their teammates what was coming. And I had 7 different playbooks in my career.
Yeah.
You got a game 3-4 nights a week. I don't know how those guys knew.
Like,
anyway.
No, for sure. Like, I listened to a podcast with Rajon, and they're like, what gave you the competitive advantage in like the playoffs? And Rajon was like, I study the coach.
He scouted the coaches.
And someone else can scout the players.
That's right.
He's like, I'm not focused on anybody else but the coach. But the coach.
That's right. And I didn't learn what he's talking about until like my 9th, 10th year in the league, to where I started seeing patterns. Like, oh, this guy came from the Spurs. Okay, well, I played for Terry Stotts. Well, Terry Stotts came from Carlisle, right? Like this. So then you start seeing patterns of like playing styles. Now, personnel is different based off of where these coaches started their careers.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I got a few questions for you. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
All righty. These are kind of like rapid fire, but like obviously there's like room to like
we good.
Expound, right? So this is just a fun one. So what do Carlos Boozer, Lamar Odom, and Austin Daye all have in common?
I don't know.
Really think about it. Carlos Boozer, Lamar Odom, and Austin Daye.
My brain won't even go there right now.
You've posted all 3 of them.
Mr. Boozer. Hey, James and Price on the other one. Oh, he throws it down.
Austin Daye?
Austin Daye.
I did get Austin.
No, you got Austin Daye. Good.
I did get in Detroit.
Yeah.
I forgot.
No, like that one's like, the other ones are like good, but that one's personally, I think the hardest one. That one has some authority.
Yeah. And you know what happened with that one? Is I got dunked on by Hakeem Warwick the game before on that road trip.
Yeah.
So if you watch that clip, listen to Kyle Korver yelling at me. After I dunked on Austin Daye, because, ESPN did this whole thing with Hakeem Warwick dunking on me.
Yeah.
Kyle Korver was the next person behind me after I got fouled on that dunk. And he was like, yeah, way to get it back. Way to get it back. He was like, way to get one back. That's what Kyle's yelling. Shout out to Kyle Korver. That's my guy.
So let's go. What former teammate do you talk to the most?
Darren Williams.
DWill? Yeah. I mean, he still lives here in Utah.
Darren and Paul Millsap.
Paul Millsap, huh?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that one.
Yeah.
And then let's go. Who's the hardest player for you to guard? Like, what matchup did you like hate going into each year?
Gilbert Arenas had like 43 on us when I was in Sacramento my second year. And I got a piece of that 43.
Yeah.
He was different. He was like the first guy outside of Bibby in practice, right? Like Bibby, I see Bibby every day, right? You can kind of learn, but I had a small window to try to figure out Gilbert Arenas, and it didn't work out for me. Baron Davis had like 38 and 19 assists also that year. That was another welcome to the NBA moment. But then Allen Iverson in Philly, AI was different.
Yeah.
And you couldn't touch him because he's a little guy, right? But he's trying to score 50 every night. Yeah. So he's aggressive.
Jeez.
So they're all different, right? Like there's some, I can go on for days about the differences of guys, but yeah.
And then who was your biggest NBA mentor?
Whoa. I had guys, I mean, like I learned stuff from Bibb, Jason Hart, Earl Watson, Brevin Knight.
Brevin Knight's a good name.
I know, man.
That's a good name.
Yeah, Brevin, that's my dog too. He's a good golfer. I always kind of like leaned on but then I had guys like Corliss Williamson, my rookie year, Sharif, right? Like guys that I just watched how they moved. But then I came across like Grant Hill, Steve Nash from watching those guys and their professionalism, right?
Yeah.
Kobe, right? Like there's just so many.
Exactly.
I can't name.
No, like, that's exactly what I need.
Served a purpose, right?
That's crazy. Yeah. Ronnie, it's been literally, like I've said it, already 10 times, but like I appreciate it way more than you know. Like this has been full circle moment for me. Like honestly, one of the, better hours I've ever had. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, man.
It's awesome.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a great one. Everybody, tune in. Ronnie Price, legend here. Like, subscribe, all the above, right? But, this has been the STLK in the UTA Jazz Hive podcast, whatever it want to be. I'm Conjo. This is Ronnie Price, and we'll catch you back another time.